One day my Merkaba started dancing in the middle of the meditation. I suddenly realized it was alive and responding to me. I called my facilitator and said, "Jeffrey, my Merkaba is alive." "Maureen," he said, "some people just do not get it, till they get it. We talked about that in class. Don't you remember?" Somehow my own bias for geometry being just shapes overrode this all-important fact. I love geometry, as any of my students will tell you. My own overlay of geometry being about static shapes blocked out my ability to hear that the Merkaba was alive at that first workshop. I now know better. In fact, your Merkaba is consciously aware of everything going on in the entire universe. This includes other dimensions along with everything that is important to you here in third dimension or wherever you reside. What does a seeing eye dog do for a blind person? It gives a form of sight to the owner. Similarly, the Merkaba gives sight to other parts of reality that we do not see, hear, or notice. As I emphasized in Chapter 2, experiencing unconditional love is the doorway to take you places you have never before experienced. Unconditional love will clear your emotional baggage and blockages. It is not the only way to do this clearing, but it is one way that works. Your sense of this grows as your heart connection opens. Your light body becomes more alive and its awareness more accessible as your love for life grows. All of the exercises in this book leading up to this point are designed to help you let go and forgive those who have harmed you. Being able to observe your so-called enemies and releasing them from that role as enemy, so both of you can move beyond it to the perfection of each moment, produces ecstatic states. These states allow your Merkaba to function on higher and higher levels. Learning the Merkaba allows you to start in the middle of the ascension process and then move up very quickly. Everything that you learn from this material is centered on unconditional love. Love is the key. The Merkaba is alive. Because your Merkaba is alive and connected to you, it can respond to you and your desires. With an active higher self connection, you can give crystal clear fifth dimensional directions to help you achieve your heart's desire. Those who dream can build greater and greater things. Our world was built by dreamers who had visions of a better life. Your dreams can be converted to a set of instructions that can be compared to writing programs for a computer. Your higher self can help you develop code that is perfect for you. Your code or programs can run in your Merkaba, maximizing you to your fullest potential. It is widely known by native peoples that crystals carry messages. Marcel Vogel, a pioneer in the exploration of psychic energy, proved that a crystal will accept programs, thoughts, feelings, emotions, and will continue to send these programs forever with great precision until someone or something erases the program. Ever wonder why Vogel crystals have so many facets? Vogel found that crystals can carry as many different programs as there are facets on the crystal. Fortunately, there are unlimited numbers of programs that can be run in your Merkaba. The reason programs are so powerful is because you are telling the universe, while you continue to live in third dimension, that you no longer abide by the rules of the game that mass consciousness is playing. You are choosing an alternate version of the reality as defined by you. Careful now. Inappropriate programming caused the demise of Atlantis. Programming is not to be taken lightly. The fail-safe solution is always asking your higher self to review your programs. In this way, you are using your fifth dimensional self to sign off on any programs that your third dimensional self may dream and create. Basic rules for writing programs for your Merkaba. Always ask, higher self, is this program appropriate? Does this program align with my highest purposes or the highest purposes of those who may be affected by my actions? You can create a program at any time and in any place. However, seriously consider only creating programs during your meditation. This is to ensure you are checking in with your higher self and that your communication with your higher self is the clearest possible. If you are suspicious of any information you receive in response to your question, you can ask again, is this my higher self telling me? Fill in the blank. Only your higher self will be permitted to answer yes. Take all programs down every New Year's Day or other anniversary date you choose to use for this purpose. This is because you may have programs running that you forgot about and need to clear out of your field. This is just good housekeeping. Think of your spring cleaning or periodically defragmenting your computer's hard disk. You must remove all programs to keep your systems running optimally. Can the Merkaba be used for protection? The Merkaba is a fifth dimensional tool that's been made available to give us a jump start into mastery of the perfected human. The Merkaba cannot be used for protection because the energy of the Merkaba is fifth dimensional, which is completely neutral, thus not polarized. While wearing your activated Merkaba, you do not need protection, because you do not have anything you need to be protected from harming you. Needing protection would bounce you out of fifth dimension because your fifth dimensional self does not need protection. The Merkaba is a proactive tool. Being proactive puts you where you need to be in any given moment, so again, no protection is needed. The Merkaba is a proactive tool. You are where you need to be and know what you are supposed to do in any given moment. Finally, the belief in a need for protection creates a state of polarity in the manifestation zone of the Merkaba. Therefore, using it for protection produces a need for protection, as a manifestation field produces what is seated in it. Remember the story I told in Chapter 4 about driving the curvy mountain road, where you were learning about connecting with the higher self? That story illustrates this point. The activated Merkaba along with your higher self connection will produce such clarity for you that you will always know where you need to be, and you will know what you need to know or do. Higher self is proactive, not protective. I was told to leave New York and go home before the 9/11 disaster. I was pulled out of the action, of being caught in New York like so many travelers who were stranded away from home that week. Your higher self is not protecting you from anything by steering you away from a difficult or unsafe situation. It is operating from a sense of being at the ideal place in the ideal time. From here, looking there, it may seem like protection, but from that vantage point protection has no value. You are connected with all of life and are following your inner direction that puts you exactly where you need to be in any moment. Why do I make this distinction? As we develop fifth dimensional understanding, we change how we look at things. This change is appropriate. I have found that using fifth dimensional descriptions and language allows thinking and being to shift more quickly. Imagine you are traveling in a foreign country. If you don't know the language, you will need an interpreter to translate the words people are saying. However, once you learn the language, you no longer need an interpreter, because you understand what is being said and can read the street signs. Once you are experiencing the language of the higher self, there is no need for interpretation. You hear and know what is being said as it is being said and know where you need to be. Your higher self connection allows you to be your higher self in the moment, hear the thought of the higher self, and know what the higher self knows. How is Merkaba useful? Just doing the Merkaba will help you let go of your judgment about the world and your interaction with it. Just practicing the Merkaba meditation realigns your thinking, which will happen automatically. If you are doing the Merkaba regularly, sooner or later you will understand and, more importantly, integrate this exquisite awareness into your life. Your activated Merkaba makes you immune to the effects of mass consciousness programming and mind control. This is another wonderful benefit from an activated Merkaba. Programming the Merkaba. For years there was a raging debate about programming the Merkaba. After much trial and error, I discovered that before we can program the Merkaba, we need to integrate certain integrity issues. This is because we are third-dimensional beings integrating a fifth-dimensional tool. If we were fifth-dimensional, we would not need to deal with the integrity issues because we would already be so plugged into God that integrity would be a non-issue. At fifth dimension, we are so connected with our love of God that certain behaviors will not occur to us. These integrity issues are addressed in the rules for programming your Merkaba. It bears repeating. Before creating any program in your Merkaba, always ask your higher self, is this program appropriate for all involved? Do I have permission from my higher self to activate this program? Not God choice in the free will third dimension. Imagine that I called you to ask if you could host the Dalai Lama or some other well-regarded dignitary that you admire. What is your first response to my request? Yes. Next you would ask about other details, such as dates and dietary preferences. Furthermore, if you had a vacation scheduled for that time frame, you would find a way to change it and be available for this important visit. This is what being fifth dimensional is like. You are so connected to God that not God choices do not even occur to you. All of your communication with me would be around yes. The possibility of saying no would not even occur to you. This is what being fifth dimensional is like. You are so connected to God, so filled with God's love, that not God choices do not even occur to you. Yet when we are observing ourselves from third dimensional reality, we do not always recognize when we are out of alignment with integrity. In third dimension, we have the choice of not God or God. Let me illustrate this. One time, while trying to impress my son with my determination to get him to complete his homework, I took a wire cutter to cut the TV cord. The TV was turned off, so I didn't think about the fact that electricity was still coursing through those wires. It never dawned on me that it was live. I was just being passionate about impressing my son. I hope you are laughing at me here, as my friends did when I told them about it. How could I not know it would still have power running through the cord? Sparks flew everywhere. My 16-year-old son started to cry. I got the desired effect, and thankfully the wire cutters were insulated so I didn't get hurt, but it was a dangerous mistake. What could go wrong? Those of you who know a little more about electrical appliances than I did know not to do that. Can you see how a novice or naive person could assume she knew what she was doing? Why would the TV have a power button that says, off, if it was live? Mistakes like that can be disastrous. In cutting an electrical cord, I could have electrocuted myself or at least received quite a shock. For similar reasons, I have developed rules for programming your Merkaba to help you avoid disastrous mistakes. The more I know about the Merkaba, the more I realize that experience makes me like a trained electrician who understands intuitively what is appropriate for it. The Merkaba is a fifth-dimensional tool. If you think of the Merkaba chariot as a vehicle, you would not give your car keys to a 5-year-old. When you finally grant the keys to a 16-year-old, you also insist on a learner's permit and driver's education classes. Impact of your sexual partner. Anyone you allow into close proximity, as in a sexual intimacy partner, can accept or alter your programs. Normally this is limited to your sexual partner. Assuming you are not having indiscriminate sex, and that you have high standards and so does your partner, there is no cause for concern. What kind of standards am I speaking of? Illegal drugs and marijuana usage puts holes in your aura. Entities can easily move into your aura and then can be transferred through sexual intimacy. I want you to know that your sexual partner is the only person who can alter your programs, with one very important exception. When you are carrying fifth-dimensional energies, your partner may notice the huge light or energy you carry is different from that of any previous partners. This is especially noticeable after your Merkaba has become permanent. Sex is the one arena where boundaries cross and the free will rules are expanded. Your sexual partner has access to your activated Merkaba when you are physically intimate. On more than one occasion I have had to clear entities from persons who had sex with someone who was carrying a lot of entities. I have seen many strange experiences where a sexual partner was the source of the problems a person was experiencing. Your sexual partner's extracurricular activities most certainly will affect you in your ascension process. If something unusual happens after you have intercourse with your partner, it is a good idea to ask your higher self what is going on. You may discover your sexual partner is bringing in stray energies or entities. The impact of drugs. Another thing that can happen is that your auric fields can be opened and torn from using certain drugs such as ecstasy, entheogens, mushrooms, or heroin. Unfortunately, although marijuana and alcohol are legal, they too will put holes in your aura. The misuse of drugs will have an impact on your auric field, or your partner's auric field, which can then allow holes in your field. There are no checks and balances operating when these holes are created and opened through drug use. Anything nearby can be collected, entities, energies, and God knows what. Although the Merkaba can repair this, why would you want to spend all your time in repair mode? Imagine starting to build your dream house, then at night, for recreation, taking a sledgehammer to it. Start now to repair this problem. Get agreement from your partner that the behavior, whatever it is, will stop and your partner will change or you will stop having sex together. Your Merkaba will repair damage from drugs, but entities need to be cleared. I have seen hooks, portals, and other strange devices in spiritual beings who had no idea they were being used by dark forces. Once they were cleared of these, their behavior changed dramatically or their situation improved significantly. What about the first time with a new sex partner? I highly recommend you ask your higher self if it is appropriate for you to have sex with the new person. As long as your higher self says yes, you know it will be all right. Advanced planning is helpful. Who wants to ask higher self that question when you are already aroused? It is not easy, I know, but I can tell you it is possible, worthwhile, and the only way to live, once you have an activated Merkaba. Basic rules for programming. Is this program appropriate for all involved? Do I have permission from my higher self to activate this program? Can programming be dangerous? Programming your Merkaba could be dangerous if you create something that is out of integrity. This is because your Merkaba is fifth dimensional, a realm where there is no polarity, no good or evil. Your Merkaba can be assigned programs by you that are not appropriate. Some have said, if the programming is so dangerous, I don't think I want to use it. Have you ever wondered about someone living in the United States who didn't drive? Except in a few large cities where convenient mass transit exists, such as New York or Boston, anyone without a driver's license is missing a lot of experiences and opportunities. Even though driving a car could be dangerous, we still learn to do it and we learn how to drive safely, including by learning skills from experienced drivers and learning to pay attention. The famous physicist Albert Einstein said, "The world is dangerous not because of those who do harm, but because of those who look at it without doing anything. Nothing that I can do will change the structure of the universe. But maybe by raising my voice I can help the greatest of all causes, goodwill among men and peace on earth." He won the Nobel Prize for his work on peace. The gift of knowing how to program your Merkaba, along with the ethical understanding of programming the Merkaba, is the assurance you have that you are maximizing this great gift. In the chapter on surrogate Merkaba, you will discover some of the mistakes people have made with programming. These mistakes prove beyond any doubt that it is possible to program your Merkaba inappropriately. Steps to programming. 2 basic principles must be applied: intention and attention. First, you must ask your higher self's approval. Is this program in alignment with my highest purposes and the highest purposes of those who may be affected by my actions? If the answer is no, you may not proceed. Your higher self knows for sure if a program you are interested in doing is acceptable for all involved. Now you understand why building an accurate higher self connection is so very important. Always ask your higher self if what you would like to do is appropriate for you. When you get a yes answer to your question, you may proceed to the next step. Put your attention on what it is you are working on and place your intention into that area. With your attention focused, see the desired outcome. You may use vague or global words, general instructions, or even pictures. Both have merit. In some cases you will use both. Drunvalo has labeled the various programs as male, female, and child. These labels are simply to help you understand the way a program works. Male programming is action-oriented, female is receptive, and child is both. The fourth kind, the witness, is not really a program so much as a decision not to program. I do not really think it is important to know which one is which, as much as it is important to know they are all acceptable. Specifically, place your attention on your Merkaba while you are in meditation. I like to do this on breath 14, but during any heart-opening meditation will do. Then either speak or think what it is you want from your Merkaba. Once your Merkaba knows what it is that you want, it will instantly begin to perform this duty. It will perform this duty forever, or until you stop it or change it, as long as your Merkaba remains activated. All programs have a purpose. The purpose is stated in the program. Stay in alignment. As you begin to write programs for yourself, after your 45-day higher self practice, you can double-check yourself by asking, what is the purpose of this program? Your purpose is the outcome you are naming for yourself. For example, if your program implies you will be protected, your purpose is protection. You will remember that earlier in this chapter we learned that it is not possible to use the Merkaba for protection, so this would not be a valid purpose. In another example, you might ask to be invisible to someone or to groups of people. In this program you would not program them to not see you, even though that might be the outcome. Instead, you program, I am invisible to everyone who might know me at this location. It is a bit like learning how to define what you want, and making sure you do not include changing others. You do not want to interfere with another's free will, so when you make yourself invisible, others may see a person, but they do not notice the individual they are seeing is you. 4 types of programming. Male. Male programming is detailed, written down, and easily explained to another. It has a repeatable pattern and is usually very logical. Female. Female programming has a quality of receptiveness and adaptability. It is like your grandma's favorite gravy recipe. You add a little potato water to the drippings, maybe vegetable broth or chicken broth, some flour. Get the idea? You cannot specifically tell another how to do it, as it will continually change, adapting to the moment. Child. The child or both way is just that. It is sometimes logical, sometimes adaptable, or both simultaneously. Witness. The neutral or witness way does not take part in the drama of life, it just watches. This is relatively difficult, very fifth-dimensional, and it is now possible. The witness only observes what happens in creation and feels no need to override what is. Throughout creation the observer makes up the largest part. Think the plant and animal kingdoms. Because our prime directive is to create, we will interact with the observers of creation. This is the clear canvas from which we create. All of the observer, witness parts of creation know what is happening and do not care. Remember the reference to movie extras, who stand in for the nameless crowd? They are literally holding space for creation to occur with the co-creators of the universe, you and I. Example. Active, male. Referring to the negative lines of force, with your intention and attention, say or think. The negative lines of force are hereby diverted around me. All harmful electromagnetic fields, EMF, that are being broadcast all over the world have no impact on me. Example. Adaptive, female. Referring to the negative lines of force, with your intention and attention, say or think. Through my intimate connections with God and life everywhere, I program my light body to give me whatever I need before I know I need it. Example. Both, child. Referring to the negative lines of force, with your intention and attention, say or think. I program my Merkaba to provide everything I need, including perfect health. Example. Witness. Referring to the negative lines of force, with your intention and attention, say or think. I program my Merkaba to allow all of creation to move through me effortlessly. The witness understands that polarity is a means of discernment and nothing more, so it does not see or react to good and evil the way most do. The witness sees good versus evil simply as contrast. The most important thing that I can tell you about programming is you must wait until you have completed your practice period with your higher self. This bears repeating. If you do not follow your inner guidance, higher self 100% of the time, you do not really trust it. Look in Chapter 5 if you want to review detailed instructions on how to develop your higher self connection. This is the key to the kingdom. Once you have a 100% accurate connection with your higher self, asking about a program that you wish your higher self to run is appropriate. Your higher self will provide you with the answers that you need to establish with certainty that your program is appropriate for you and for all who may be affected by your actions. Everything depends upon your connection to your higher self. Not everyone wants to develop a higher self connection or needs to, but everyone can benefit from this practice and grow the connection. Enough of us need to develop this level of connection so that we can reach critical mass to achieve ascension. You probably wouldn't be reading this if you weren't interested in mastering your ascension. General rules. Always complete your higher self practice period. See Chapter 5, before attempting to do any programming with your Merkaba. This is because the only way to know with confidence if the program you are creating is suitable for you is to ask your higher self. If your higher self connection is not 100% reliable, how will you know your programming is appropriate? I insist that you agree to no new programs until you have completed your practice period, so you are certain you are not in violation of some unknown activity. Then make the following commitment. I agree to wait to create new programs until I have completed my practice period. Practice period is fully discussed in Chapter 5. The 7 basic programs. The first step is to ask your higher self. Higher self, are the 7 basic programs from this book appropriate for me? If you get yes, you may proceed. If you get no, then you may ask individually, before each program. For example, you might say, higher self, is program number 1 appropriate for me at this time? If you get no now, you may get yes later. If you are told no on any of these programs, there may be a specific reason for that, but these basic programs are approved for almost everyone. If you do not get approval today, you can ask again tomorrow. I program my Merkaba to divert all harmful geopathic lines of force, such as ley lines, electromagnetic lines, and black water lines that exist in and around the earth around me to produce zero impact on me. Divert all harmful EMFs, electromagnetic fields, and other harmful transmissions, such as cell phones, Wi-Fi routers, and so on, around me to produce zero impact on me. Remove and divert all forms of pollution, known or unknown to me, that can adversely affect my physical, mental, emotional, and etheric bodies as gently and as imperceptibly as possible. Be invisible and undetectable to any and all whose purposes are out of alignment with my purposes. Assist me with my own and planetary unresolved issues that may need to be forgiven and released. Remind me to reactivate the Merkaba before it goes inactive. Place the above programs in my startup group. Programs you forgot about. Daryl, a contractor on Whidbey Island, Washington, had placed a program around the luxury condo building project he had been developing. It made the condos invisible to anyone not involved in the construction project. This proved quite useful, as he did not need to do anything else to limit unwanted visitors. Notice that it is a fifth-dimensional program by virtue of the fact that it is not providing protection. It may seem like protection from this vantage point, but it is truly a proactive program. I have visited Daryl's home many times to teach. One afternoon he wandered into the class while I was teaching about programming. All of a sudden he tapped his head and left the room. Within a few minutes of his return to the room, his cell phone rang. He had put the condos up for sale about 3 months earlier and had not received any inquiries, and was really wondering why. When he was listening to my talk, he remembered the above program and realized he still had it running. He immediately took it down. Within 5 minutes a realtor was calling, asking to show the property. Programs you can create. After you have completed your practice period, you can add programs on your own. If you already have installed the 7 basic programs, you may not need anything else. Even pandemics are addressed by the 7 basic programs. You can use these programs as antidotes for anything that may be a threat to you, such as a flu virus or the negative effects of a vaccine. At a certain point, these threats no longer have any hold on you because at 5th dimension there is no problem with them. They can only cause problems to someone who accepts what mass consciousness is saying about the reality. Always ask your higher self about any programming you are doing. Programs work. Programming works because you are operating at a 5th dimensional level and can create the programs with commands. It may seem that your Merkaba programs are similar to intentions, although they are far more powerful and effective in 3rd dimensional reality. Merkaba programs are absolute. They create from 5th dimension, a place of instant manifestation, into 3rd dimension. Asking your higher self permission is imperative. Without getting permission, there are no checks and balances on your Merkaba programs. If you are already 5th dimensional, then of course you would not even think of doing something out of alignment with God. However, you may be a 3rd dimensional being who is using a power tool, which is why it is essential to always get higher self-approval so you do not accidentally cause some ill-intentioned effect. Misusing a 5th dimensional tool for ego-related purposes is a serious infraction of cosmic law. What is a startup group and how do you use it? A startup group is a set of programs that run each time you activate your Merkaba. On a computer, a startup group includes programs that open automatically when you power up your computer. In practical terms, it means that all your basic programs will run automatically when you activate your Merkaba daily. The startup group is purposed so that all you need to do is the Merkaba, and all your basic programs are automatically activated. How do you properly and fully take down a single program? If you have a number of active programs and later decide that one of them is no longer wanted or needed, you will want to remove that program. To take down a single program, you think of or say that program and state with clear intention. Higher self, this program is removed and cleared. You may find it helpful to see it written on a blackboard and erase it. How do you clear all programs at once? The way to take down all programs is to think or say, higher self, all programs are cancelled and cleared. You may also use a visual, such as erasing a list on the blackboard. You could also see yourself connecting with all your programs, whether you remember them or not, and pulling the plug on them so they cease to exist. As discussed earlier, it's a good idea to do this once a year. Is there a way to know what programs are currently running? The easiest way to know if your programs are still running is to ask your higher self. You may also ask your higher self if your Merkaba is permanent, which will indicate your startup group is running automatically. You can also ask your higher self if you need to keep doing the Merkaba. Even though the Merkaba is permanent, you may be asked to keep doing it. Is there a way to know if a program is running that you did not initiate? Again, you can ask your higher self if there are any programs running that you did not initiate. This can happen when you are taking an initiation and have given someone else authority over you. Always ask your higher self if it is appropriate for you to accept DNA activation or any other outside authority action that will allegedly accelerate your processes. Occasionally accepting such external offerings can be disastrous and can actually throw you back in your progress. Your higher self can guide you if you want to accept this sort of boost. Lessons when taking an initiation. An initiation is deliberately choosing to take an advanced expression and integrate it into yourself. Taking an initiation may involve skipping over the natural spiritual evolution that would occur based on real-life experiences and tests. Initiations generally jump-start stalled spiritual processes. Maybe you have been signing up for some massive initiation work. You may have even said, I will do whatever it takes to get started on my life path, without realizing it may result in significant changes that could cause a healing crisis. People are getting DNA activation, cosmic lattice work, and various other kinds of initiation. Sometimes people are getting sick. Why are they getting sick from these initiations? Everyone wants to get on to the next initiation, but your body may not be fully operational due to bad habits, poor diet, lack of exercise, unfinished business from childhood, old wounds, and so on. It is fantastic if you can do this, yet it may be difficult to take on that amount of initiation work. The weakest link. What this means is that you may blow a circuit where you have the weakest link. If your lungs tend to be the first part of you that has a problem, when you take an initiation you may get a cold or worse. Knowing this, I suggest you add to your higher self request. I will accept whatever changes in me are necessary. I ask that they occur as gently and as imperceptibly as possible, preferably while I am sleeping. I know they can occur unexpectedly and may be significant. I believe problems occur because you are blowing open the weakest link. When a person gets upgraded, either through some sort of initiation or activation, powerful new energy is moving through the energy bodies. Too much too fast will short circuit and cause you to tear a part of your energy field. This creates a domino effect resulting in an expression of the tear in your physical makeup. This experience is much like a garden hose that has not been used for a while and develops a weak spot. Then when water comes through with high pressure, it blows right through the weak spot, creating a huge hole in the line. Sometimes we are so eager to keep advancing we proceed recklessly through activation after activation. What can be done to alleviate the effects of this? If you are truly suffering from your latest activation and are in need of some relief, consider this a warning to slow down. Accept that your body may need some integration time. Please also use this awareness to help you listen and accept the advice of a teacher who tells you that you might not be ready for the next step. Resolve to look for signs of permission to proceed from the universe. If you ask for a sign that you are ready or are permitted to proceed, your higher self will give that to you. Relief now. If you are suffering from the ill effects of too much too fast, there is something you can do about it. To begin with, clear intention is very helpful. With clear intention you can ask for the matrix that existed before the initiation or healing took place to be re-established in your physical, mental, emotional, and etheric bodies. Allow yourself to temporarily go back in time and space to the place of good health before the initiation, before the shift in energy. This is just a temporary matrix and will not be sustainable, nor do you wish to sustain it. But it could give you enough of a breather to allow your body to readjust to the new energy. Your sole purpose for creating this alternate reality is to pull a replica of your body elemental from that time period and superimpose it on yourself now. This will serve to retrain or entrain your body to a version that was operating well. Then gradually instruct that matrix to dissolve slowly, at a pace that will allow full integration, as you are ready. My favorite programs. Here's a list of some of my favorite programs that I've written for myself or others. If you would like to use them, that is not enough. You must ask your higher self if this program is appropriate for you and for anyone who may feel the impact. Also be sure to add this ending to all programs. I program my Merkaba to work with my higher self and to make all the necessary adjustments and changes as gently and as imperceptibly as possible, preferably during the evening hours while I sleep. For help with healing big emotional wounds where you have disconnected from your feelings and quite possibly your chakras. I program my Merkaba to repair and rebuild my lost or severed connections in my 4 lower bodies, including connections among all of my chakras. I further instruct my body elemental to connect me with the fullest and most evolved expression of myself possible in this embodiment, in accord with my higher self. For abuse repair, I program my Merkaba to repair and heal all traumas in my 4 lower bodies, physical, mental, emotional, and etheric, in this and any lifetimes. For objects disappearing into higher dimensions, I program my Merkaba to assist me with the issue of misplaced items, understanding multiple realities, and recognizing feelings and answers in order to minimize confusion and frustration and gain efficiency. For partnerships, including your beloved, especially when both activate this same program, I fill in your name. Choose to commit 100% of my energies to support my relationship with your partner's name, my beloved. I ask that all of heaven and earth move to assist me with this so I can fulfill my mission with him or her. I ask all the beings of light to assist me in upholding this commitment, learning, growing, and releasing all that is necessary to fulfill our mission. For your relationship program, I program my Merkaba to assist me in balancing, energizing, and healing anything in me that needs healing in order to maximize our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual union. For partners who are separated by distance, work, I program my Merkaba to assist me and my beloved through this time of separation. I ask that, regardless of our separation, we grow closer together in all ways. I ask my higher self and Merkaba to bring us closer in our 4 lower bodies, physical, mental, emotional, and etheric. Let it assist us in growing our mutual trust, integrity, kindness, compassion, discernment, faith, forgiveness, truth, love, wisdom, and listening to and hearing each other's needs. Help us to keep romance alive, live in harmony, and develop our soulmate connection to its highest possible expression. This program will help love grow, but it won't turn someone into your soulmate if they are not your soulmate. For work, choose what is appropriate for your situation. I program my Merkaba to assist me in all ways with your job. I program my Merkaba to locate and teach me all the information that I need to succeed at my job in this project to the highest level. This can include noticing things that need attention, catching exceptions to the rule, understanding special circumstances, and being prepared to handle the unexpected. I program my Merkaba to maximize my preparation time so that I will know everything I need to know before I need to know it. I program my Merkaba to create connections with all involved in this project so everyone benefits. Our company, the staff, contractors and subcontractors, clients, and customers. I program my Merkaba to make each day fun and easy for all involved and create a win-win environment every day for everyone in this project. Remember to end all programs with this. I program my Merkaba to work with my higher self and to make all the necessary adjustments and changes as gently and as imperceptibly as possible, preferably while I sleep. 7. Black helicopters. What you will learn in this chapter. What are these black helicopters? Who are they? What are they doing? Sightings by students. Time travel and black helicopters. Initially, I didn't tell my students about black helicopters. After all, it is a pretty weird experience. I didn't think they really needed to know about it, and I don't enjoy talking about this far out stuff. I wasn't even sure they would believe me. Then my students started calling to tell me their black helicopter stories, along with their fears about what could possibly be happening. I realized I needed to tell them about black helicopters so they would not be afraid. I also realized I could solve the issue by giving them the program for invisibility. This is in the 7 basic programs, number 4. This is real. At one point several years ago, a student in Seattle emailed me about her black helicopter experience and suggested I post it on my website. Her statement was, "The black helicopters are fun." It did not take long, not even 24 hours, until she called me back, begging me to remove that comment. Why? Because they were buzzing her property and wouldn't leave her alone. A lot of people thought the black helicopter experience would validate the experience of the Merkaba, but frankly, I do not think you need parlor games to know the Merkaba is real. I have witnessed firsthand or heard about helicopters in many cities, including Madison, Seattle, Pittsburgh, New York, cities in Europe, cities near airbases, and so on. Even though we call them black helicopters, they are not always black, as you may discover. I have concluded that wherever the military is set up to observe and monitor an area, there you will find a strong likelihood of their detecting your Merkaba. Their job is to track alien energy, and the Merkaba appears on their tracking devices as out of this world. Who are they? I honestly do not know who sent the helicopters. I have seen the helicopters and know they are real. I've heard enough stories from credible students of mine to know there is a real agency whose purpose is to track the energy anomalies of the planet. Wherever a Merkaba field shows up, they must investigate. There are non-human ETs living among us. Most are here with the full authority of the powers that be. Some are not. If you really want to understand all this, I suggest you watch the film Men in Black. The movie's premise is 95% accurate, and when you watch it again you will begin to understand what is happening. The movie is a comedy, but I take this subject very seriously. I trust you will, too. Once you begin to realize and accept that there are real interplanetary aliens among us, working with our government and others, you can begin to appreciate what I will tell you next. What are the black helicopters doing? The job of those in the black helicopters is to contain all the aliens in specific areas. Apparently, these ET beings are allowed to be located in mostly populated areas where their presence can be tracked. I have confirmation of this from various individuals who are aware of them. A good resource for this information is a book by William Tompkins, Selected by Extraterrestrials. His book details the secret agreements between off-planet aliens and the US government. If you knew that any alien had a Merkaba field, and that the technology existed to track a Merkaba field, and it does, you would begin to understand how effortless it would be to locate aliens using this technology. I do not believe this technology is radar. I believe they are using a technology that is beyond our radar but has a similar ability to locate and track energy fields. They will not do anything to hurt you, but I guarantee, if you have ever been visited by the black helicopters, it is a bit unnerving. They often aim big floodlights at your windows or other areas around your house or place of work. They usually hang out long enough to determine who or what you are, and long enough for you to think, what are they doing? One of my students jokingly suggested that I start sending the black helicopter guys my class lists, since this was becoming pretty commonplace. I have another way to deal with it, which is covered in the next chapter, Surrogate Merkaba, both useful and destructive. I think this discussion itself is humorous. The black helicopter people need to know what you are doing. Imagine them detecting a spacecraft, your Merkaba field, and then discovering it is just an ordinary, or extraordinary, citizen, that is, you. Apparently our Merkaba looks no different from an ET's Merkaba, at least on their scanning technology, which is why they send black helicopters to investigate. The black helicopter phenomenon. The rest of this chapter is going to share more highlights of the black helicopter phenomenon. I have so many of these stories in my files, I feel you must know. Some will find this information entertaining, others will be intrigued, still others will be frightened. If you are frightened, all the more reason to know and understand this phenomenon, because you can do something about it. Refer to my favorite programs and make your Merkaba invisible to those whose purposes are not the same as yours. If you have been visited by black helicopters and doubted yourself or never told anyone, now you will be validated. You are not imagining this. Where do they look for Merkaba fields? Not all areas of the world are being monitored. The most monitoring activity occurs in New York and other large cities. Other areas being monitored are near strategic military installations. For example, the population of Boise, Idaho, is only about 204,000. It is not a big city, yet because of its proximity to Mountain Home Air Force Base, Boise is being monitored. If you don't care about being noticed or discovered, don't bother making yourself invisible. I have had people tell me they did not care, until the black helicopters came. They start to play with them, like the woman who wrote a comment for my website, but within a short time they realize their folly. It's unnerving because you know you are being watched, and you don't know why. I think you will find that it is not worth the nuisance and that it is easier to do what you want when you are invisible to the military. After all, it is their job to protect the masses. In my opinion, invisibility is standard equipment for everyone's Merkaba, so I ask each of you to check in with your higher self to determine if you should have the invisibility program. It will be a rare exception to be told not to have this program running. I did have one student who was recruited by the CIA right out of college. After about 6 months he was disillusioned and dropped out of the program. Later he participated in one of my classes. He did not have to tell me since I knew about it from my guides. When we activated these programs in my class, he was actually told by his higher self not to run the invisibility program. He came to me after the class asking why I thought he would get that direction from his higher self. My guidance was that he was probably being monitored anyway and they knew he was in my class learning the Merkaba. It was better that they see it, since they knew where he had just been. Later, when he is no longer a security threat, he really was not then, but how would they know? His higher self might tell him to make himself invisible. Invisibility is the most important program for your Merkaba. It is discussed in Chapter 6. Sightings of black helicopters. In the early years of teaching the Merkaba, around 1995, I didn't tell students about the black helicopters unless it came up as a question. Then my students began sharing more and more of these experiences with me and it became necessary to discuss it further. The most striking experience in my early years was with a woman from Brooklyn who was doing the Merkaba twice a day. She was very focused with clearing work and was making huge progress on her own inner world. One day a black helicopter showed up in the middle of the night, shining a floodlight into her bedroom window. Her roommate wasn't very excited about that. The next day black helicopters showed up in the middle of the day at her work. Since her employer was a large veterans hospital, it was quite unusual to see an unidentified, non-medical helicopter in this hospital zone. Since then her life has been more tranquil and she has gone on to be a successful teacher. On another occasion a group in Madison activated their Merkaba and within minutes a black helicopter was spotted flying very low over the house where I was teaching. In a more recent incident I was awakened at 2 a.m. by my cell phone. I don't always have my phone within hearing range, but this night I did. As it rang I mentally checked in, feeling no significant emergency, and I remember thinking, this had better be good, to wake me up from sleep on a seminar weekend. It was a student from New York who had been having a smoke on his fire escape on a corner of 8th Avenue in Greenwich Village after a chat with a friend. They'd been discussing time travel, warp speed, intergalactic activity, and so on. His friend had a keen interest in extraterrestrials and my student thought he carried a lot of alien energy. All of a sudden a large white helicopter was headed directly up 8th Avenue toward him at a very fast pace. It stopped right in front of him. As it hovered in front of him, facing his apartment, this large, out of place, white helicopter then moved up slowly revealing scanning and other equipment on its belly. By now my student was sufficiently spooked to go inside. This was at 2 a.m. What happened? His friend had spontaneously activated his Merkaba through their discussions and connection. In another example a piano teacher in her 60s named Shirley had asked me to return and facilitate another workshop in her home. She had quit doing her Merkaba meditation but invited me because she enjoyed our friendship and wanted to see me again. As she prepared for her vacation scheduled for the following day, it occurred to her that, Maureen will know I have not been practicing my meditation. Indeed, every good piano teacher knows when her students show up for lessons unprepared. Her husband had gone to bed and she decided to activate her Merkaba, completely forgetting about the 7 basic programs, especially the one to make you invisible. Within minutes she heard the med-flight helicopter overhead. Normally the hospital's medical helicopter flies over their neighborhood on its way to the hospital when bringing in a patient. This time the helicopter came but seemed to hover. Shirley and her husband live in a large, solid log cabin in a subdivision on a large hill in Boise. When the sound didn't go away, she finally peeked outside and saw not one but 2 helicopters. One of them was so close she thought it might land on her house. Pretty soon the whole house was shaking like a moving railroad car. Terrified, she decided to turn off the lights and call it a night. When they returned from their vacation a week later her daughter, son-in-law, and 16-year-old grandson went for pizza. Grammy, the teenager said, "Did you see those 2 helicopters over your house the night before you left for vacation? There were 2 of them. One was so close to your house I thought it was going to land on top of it." Time travel and the black helicopters. This next story is so surreal I hesitate to write about it. I was teaching a class in New York City, one of many I taught prior to actually moving there. It was unusual in that there was a very interesting energy that seemed to be directing me in my teaching. Because I am an open, clear channel, I am in constant communication with my higher self and guides. I have found that checking in, my shorthand for asking higher self a question, is almost like working on the internet. I am always on, yet periodically check in to get updates and direction and reconfirm information. During this particular class, the entire live instruction I was getting was very specific, that I was not allowed to follow my normal procedure. Instead, I was given my entire direction through my physical body. It was different from anything I had ever experienced, and I was feeling my way through the class, announcing what was happening instead of my usual, "We will do this and then take a break," based on direct guidance. Although it was unfamiliar, at the same time I found myself completely calm and connected to my physical body. I led the entire workshop this way. Everything was on a very tight leash, in that I was given short bursts of instruction and nothing more. I remember hearing clearly in my thought, "You have 1 hour to do the advanced material, black helicopters, and programming, then activate the Merkaba, in meditation, one more time putting the programming in place." So that is what we did. As soon as I announced this next direction to the students, a nurse sitting right across from me became extremely agitated and upset. I remember looking directly at her and saying in a very clear and deliberate way, "Stay with me, I promise it will be okay." Since I had only 1 hour, I was not taking questions, and we were then to go on and install the 7 basic programs into the Merkaba and end the course. After class 1 approached this woman and said, "You were visited by the black helicopters, weren't you?" She immediately seemed to relax, realizing that I knew. I asked her when they came and she excitedly said, "The night before class started." That means they came a full day before the class began. Offering more details, she told us there had been several helicopters flying around her apartment building in Manhattan, shining floodlights into her windows. She got up and turned on the TV to see what was happening. She asked, in an even tone, "Do you have any idea how many news stations we have here in New York?" When I could not find a single one of them with any information, I was absolutely terrified. My channel opened and I said, "This is about time travel. The first time you did this workshop you went home without the invisibility programmed into your Merkaba." Back in those days I did not realize students needed some of this advanced material in the basic Flower of Life course and did not always offer it. How did I know it was about time travel? Teaching is usually a mental exercise, and personally for me a channeling exercise, where I open my mind to my guides. My guides came in and reviewed with me my workshop experience, encouraging me to see how it was different. Looking back at the experience of my workshop this time, I remembered I was tracing a thread of information coming through my body compared with my usual use of my mind for teaching. I was shown that I was tracing the exact same version of the reality that had already occurred, parallel realities, in which the nurse had gone home without activating the invisibility program. In this case, it was never a mental exercise. My mind was not involved in the class instruction that weekend. My information track was retracing the first time I taught this same workshop, as in multiple versions of the reality. The second time the entire weekend lined up with another version of this same event. We then changed the reality at the end of class when I was given a very short window to alter the instructions. How did I alter them? I gave everyone the program to be invisible. By putting invisibility and other programs into the Merkaba, we changed the matrix and became invisible so she could go home without being seen. In the first part of this incredible story, when she went home and showed up with what was perceived as a spaceship, that is, her activated Merkaba around her body, it attracted attention and some sort of time travel occurred that allowed them to land in her reality the day before the workshop. Wild, I know. Many of the students had gathered around us by this time, and a dozen or so persons from the class said that they were getting huge confirmation on this channeled information. I have written a template on how to jump tracks, as I call it. This is an amazing tool that you can use anytime you are aware that something terrible is going to happen, or if you see a mass consciousness outcome that seems inevitable and you feel the strong need to change it. With permission from your higher self, of course. This template is written about in Chapter 13 on Gridwork. 8. Surrogate Merkaba, both useful and destructive. What you will learn in this chapter. What is a surrogate Merkaba? A surrogate Merkaba is created with approval from your higher self. When in doubt, do without. How to create a surrogate Merkaba. When to create a surrogate. When not to create a surrogate. Yes, I am going to spend a whole chapter telling you about surrogates and how to build them, and then tell you not to do this unless and until you have a clear higher self connection. Knowing about surrogate Merkaba is a little like sex education. With enough good education, you know when to be careful. Over the years I discovered that individuals would take the information I was giving them and translate it into action, which made me happy with their inventiveness until I realized they were doing programs that lacked certain understanding. At first, in my naivete, I didn't realize that people would not know not to do certain things. But hey, all of us need an education in certain areas. I had to learn the hard way not to cut the wires of the TV while it was still plugged in. You may remember from Chapter 6 that I almost electrocuted myself. You need to develop your higher self connection so that you know it is accurate. Then always ask, is this program appropriate for me? What is a surrogate? A surrogate Merkaba is synonymous with an external Merkaba. A surrogate Merkaba is a program that replicates your Merkaba in another specific location. Imagine saying in your mind the phrase copy, paste. This works like the copy and paste functions on your computer. A surrogate is a program to replicate your Merkaba somewhere else for a specific purpose. All Merkaba programs must have a purpose, so you must have a purpose for your surrogate. For example, You might have a surrogate Merkaba over a prayer circle in the woods with the specific purpose of being seen only by persons who would recognize and respect this prayer circle. Replicating your Merkaba in another location without a purpose would be inappropriate. Understand that it is the prayer circle that you are making invisible with your surrogate Merkaba. This is a purposeful program so individuals with destructive energies don't tromp all over your sacred circle when you are not there using it. Usefulness of surrogates. A spell of old is similar to a program in your Merkaba today and must honor the free will of anyone affected by your actions. This is a reminder that surrogates are powerful fifth-dimensional tools that require you to always take care to exercise respect for others' free will in their use. If you do something that would interfere with free will by your fifth-dimensional programming, you are breaking cosmic law. Understanding this is critical. At fifth dimension there is no polarity, so there is no judgment. You can do what you do and it will not be perceived as good or bad. Remember that your Merkaba is fifth dimensional. Normally, at fifth dimension, you would not even think of doing something that is against cosmic law. Because you are being given a powerful fifth dimensional tool to assist you with your ascension, you, in your third dimensional way of being, might actually come up with an idea that is not in alignment with a fifth dimensional choice. The surrogate technology is relatively new. When Drunvalo created his original surrogate experiment, it was the first time he had ever considered doing such a thing. It amazed him how well it worked. Drunvalo wrote about surrogate Merkaba in Volume 2 of The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life. The experiment was prompted by his realization that when he was working with a group of individuals, the black helicopters kept appearing. Drunvalo was not bothered by all this extra activity, but it was a distraction. He thought about what he might do to get them to stop coming, and the idea of creating a secondary or surrogate Merkaba came to mind. As Drunvalo had permission from his students to work with them on this level, he was free to try this. The very first time he created a surrogate Merkaba around the location of a prayer circle, they did not come. In previous times when they had activated in that circle outside in nature, helicopters consistently appeared. After he created the surrogate Merkaba, whose purpose was to make the place invisible to the black helicopters, they did not come. This made Drunvalo realize he was onto something. From that point on, Drunvalo's surrogate Merkaba worked with the intention that their activities in the prayer circle would be invisible and undetectable. On the last day of the seminar, he took his group to the woods 100 miles from the original location, completely forgetting about the surrogate, and sure enough, as soon as they started their activity, the black helicopters were everywhere. Fifth dimensional privileges. I want you to understand you are your fifth dimensional self while wearing your Merkaba and are expected to operate in the highest integrity and act like a fifth dimensional being. Remember in a previous chapter where the concept of free will and the not God choice was presented? A fifth dimensional being does not need to be reminded about integrity, because when you are fully fifth dimensional, the not God choice does not occur to you. When you are just learning, the obvious will not be so obvious, which is why it is so important to take the time to learn and comprehend these details. Wearing your fifth dimensional uniform, the Merkaba, gives you fifth dimensional privileges whether you have earned them or not. The toroidal, donut, field that exists around your body and is activated with your Merkaba is powerful beyond third dimensional reality. Research of Dr. Glenn Rain shows that this shape around the heart, which is bigger than your whole body, is an energy transducer, meaning it converts one form of energy to another because it generates an infinite number of harmonics and allows a step-down or demodulation of higher energies. Energy travels through the type of torus that produces these harmonics with no loss of power. Only when the heart is coherent, as in feelings of love and connectedness, can the energy come through in force. Resonance and coherence in an orderly system are tools allowing for access to the energies from higher realms. With your Merkaba activated, you have stepped up this process. It is real and measurable. Wisdom and magic must be paired. Ancient Egyptians had true magicians, those who could truly call in magic. Om Seti, keeper of the Abydos temple of Seti I, asked her beloved king Seti in one of his many apparitions to tell her why Heka and Sia always accompanied the solar boat of the sun god Ra. His response: they are shown together to remind all beholders that those who have Heka must have Sia, or else they make use of bad Heka. Heka is true magic and Sia is wisdom. Without it, magic can be misused. In other words, the effects of the Merkaba can be miraculous, but it must be handled with wisdom and integrity or it can be destructive. There are many opportunities to misuse the power of the Merkaba. This is one of the most important reasons I wrote this book, Beyond the Flower of Life. The Merkaba is a powerful tool to be used wisely. This is why integrity issues are so important in third dimension. When you first learn the Merkaba, you may need help discerning what a not God choice is. This is why you need to work with your higher self until your connection is crystal clear and you are getting accurate information before you write programs. When is a surrogate destructive? I choose to use words that are convergence-based, so you will not read good or bad into this information about programs. In simple terms, the purpose of any program or surrogate must be aligned with the will of the individuals involved. A surrogate is destructive when it causes a person to fall out of harmony with her or his own ascension process. Attempting to control another in a free will zone is also considered stepping out of harmony. Contrary to what you may believe, your higher self is not like a parent who lovingly corrects the actions you may take while creating surrogate programs for your Merkaba. It is entirely possible to create a surrogate program that is inappropriate and destructive, as you will see in the following examples. A man in a recent Earth, Sky, Heart workshop of Drunvalo's raised his hand as Drunvalo was discussing programs and surrogates. When called upon, he asked, "Can I program my Merkaba to get my wife to do what I want her to do?" The entire audience of 165 people burst into laughter. How does a person get this far in his spiritual work and not realize the disconnect in this? Maybe he was joking. I want you to understand you are your fifth dimensional self while wearing your Merkaba and are expected to operate in the highest integrity and act like a fifth dimensional being. A fifth dimensional being does not need to be reminded about integrity, because when you are fully fifth dimensional the not God choice doesn't occur to you. When you are just learning, the obvious won't be so obvious, which is why it is so important to take the time to learn and comprehend these details. It is never appropriate to put a surrogate Merkaba around another living being. Remember, the Merkaba has a torus field. I have seen this torus field of the living Merkaba. If you were to mix your Merkaba field with another's torus field, you would be looping their entire matrix energy through your torus. Energetically, this is undesirable and makes no sense whatsoever. The rare exception. In the rare exception of a life-threatening situation, you might get permission from your higher self, and then the higher self of the other person, by asking your higher self to ask their higher self. You would not leave a surrogate in place around someone for any length of time. I know of one instance where Drunvalo put a surrogate Merkaba around someone and then stayed with the person for 48 hours in the intensive care unit. Before leaving his friend's bedside, he took it down. In such cases you will need to get double higher self permission. First you ask your higher self for permission, then you ask your higher self to ask the other person's higher self. It is a two-step process and never done lightly. Misuse of a surrogate Merkaba around a child. Without fully understanding what she was doing, a Merkaba student in her mid-40s who was the mother of a child with attention deficit disorder, placed a surrogate Merkaba around her child to help settle down hyperactivity issues. Initially she was pleased with the results and called me to share her success. I was dumbfounded. I could not imagine anyone doing such a thing and I asked her to take it down. She refused. This woman is a capable, spiritual, committed person, knowledgeable in shamanic healing, a lightworker, and a genuinely lovely person. She wanted to help her child, but it is unethical to put a surrogate Merkaba around anyone else, especially your own offspring. You are interfering with the child's free will. I explained this to this parent and recommended she remove the surrogate for this reason. She did not follow my recommendation, but kept it activated for a long time. Eventually she attended a workshop with Drunvalo and told him of her success with the surrogate Merkaba around her son. What do you think Drunvalo told her? The very thing I had said 6 months earlier, take it down. After she took the program down, she fell ill unexpectedly with an unexplained illness that haunted her for years. It began with a case of the flu and developed into a full-blown experience in which she was unable to walk and had a raft of other serious physical ailments. She suffered through apparent nerve dysfunction, inexplicable pain, loss of motor control, and more. She went in and out of numerous hospitals and was tested for every possible kind of virus and neuromuscular, physical, and mental disease imaginable, but none of her doctors were ever able to identify what caused this. She consulted specialists in both allopathic and naturopathic medicine, and worked with energy healers and spiritual healers. This parent has suffered greatly. She was in a wheelchair and has been recovering for close to 6 years now. Her physical issues did not appear to have a physical cause. She would get a little better and then relapse. The road to recovery has been excruciatingly slow. I believe this person's ailments are directly related to the misuse of the surrogate Merkaba. My guides tell me the two events are related. Now I want to make something perfectly clear here. She is not being punished for her surrogate program. There is no karma from her program. It is a simple outcome-based scenario. If you mix red wine with oil and then spill it on your shirt, the longer it sits the more difficult it is to get out the stain. Her physical disability is related to the mix-up of her Merkaba energy with her child's Merkaba energy. If you mix your energy with someone else's in this manner, undesirable results can occur. Another destructive surrogate Merkaba. Many individuals have mistakenly believed they could put a surrogate Merkaba around an animal. While this is certainly possible, it is not advisable under any circumstances. An animal communicator student of mine put a surrogate Merkaba around a horse that was not responding to normal treatments or any of her usual pantheon of healing modalities, including Sichim Reiki, essential oils, and massage. She promptly forgot about it. My friend started to develop some strange symptoms, a mysterious illness and general loss of well-being. After 5 days of suffering, she could no longer get out of bed. Deciding that something was seriously wrong, she went into meditation to find the answer. Her primary guide came in and reminded her that she had left a surrogate Merkaba over the horse. She argued with her guide, saying, "I did not build that. I asked the angels to do that." If that was the case, who commanded the angels? Where did they get the template of the living Merkaba field? Her guide showed her that she was the creator of the surrogate Merkaba. Since the horse was now looping through her torus field, she was mixing up its energy and hers. No wonder she got sick. She called me a few days after she took it down and had started to get better. The first words I heard from her that day were, "I know you told me not to do this." The animal kingdom is not being projected onto the screen of life from the same dimension as humans. Therefore, the practice of placing a Merkaba around them would link us to that animal and subject us to their reality as well as our own. Since their job is to serve humanity and Mother Earth, that might cause some serious problems. You would not mix two different kinds of fuel to run an engine. I believe that there is a significant difference in the energy, spiritual energy, that humans use. You do not want an animal vibration looping through your torus field. A surrogate Merkaba is not for protection. It is never appropriate to put up an external Merkaba that protects another person. The obvious reason, the Merkaba is not for protection. The second reason is that creating such a field robs her of her Christhood and her path. One woman, a shaman, put a surrogate Merkaba around the people in an apartment building in another country across the ocean. Her friend in that location had had a scare of some kind and was quite frightened. She asked the shaman to do something. Naturally, the shaman went on a shamanic journey through the ethers. She created a surrogate Merkaba around the apartment building thinking she would be offering protection for this family and everyone who lived in the building. When she completed this project, she asked her power animal if there was anything else she should do. Her power animal told her to email me right away and tell Maureen what you have done. At that very moment I was on an airplane headed back home. I was awakened from sleep by my guides telling me to retrieve my laptop from the overhead bin. I was to write, rules for programming your Merkaba. When I returned home, most of the reply email to her was already written. At this point her surrogate had been running for maybe an hour. Prior to that there were no guidelines or rules for creating surrogate Merkaba. Hence my guidance to write the rules was to prevent future miscreations and to help the shaman understand the nature of her actions. The Merkaba is not like white light. Using Reiki, white light, or the angels to offer safety and protection in the third dimension is perfectly reasonable. The Merkaba, however, is a living organism and operates from the Merkaba field of its creator. It is not like white light, which offers a benefit to everyone. That means that any surrogate you create is coming from your physical Merkaba. It is a copy-paste version of your Merkaba and is physically linked to it. Anything that is happening to the surrogate is happening to you, since you are looping the other person through your field. I explained to this shaman that while her intentions were quite honorable, my recommendation was that she take down this external Merkaba and encourage her friends to attend Merkaba training from a facilitator in their area. As long as she had all those individuals in her external Merkaba, and it was hers, since she created it, she was responsible for what went on with the new energy she might be feeling. If you did get permission from your higher self to create such a surrogate Merkaba, you would also have to have permission from the higher selves of each of the tenants living in that apartment building. Clearly this well-meaning shaman misunderstood the use of a surrogate and unwittingly mixed her energies. Remember, a surrogate is a copy of your Merkaba. This is completely different than putting a surrogate Merkaba around a consenting group, as with Drunvalo's prayer circle. Do you get the picture? Each of us needs to be responsible for our own Merkaba. While the danger the person faced may have been real, I doubt that it is ongoing. If it is, then perhaps they would consider activating their own Merkaba. She wrote me back reporting how she had started to feel very strangely after that shamanic journey. The external Merkaba should only be created for purposes that will not interfere with another's free will. The shaman in question put one over a building and its residents that she did not own and where she was only tangentially connected. She created a big connection with it by virtue of her actions. Thankfully she took it down within an hour. Because of her shamanic work, along with her curiosity, she immediately went on another shamanic journey to discover more about what I had explained to her. True to form, the information I provided was validated by her second journey when she received understanding to authenticate my communication to her. She then took the external Merkaba down. A surrogate is not shared or created lightly. This could backfire on you in ways you cannot even imagine. This is why there are a number of rules for the use of the surrogate Merkaba. Should you even consider surrogates? One student, in a desire to prevent possible mishaps, suggested we not learn about surrogates. Once the knowledge that surrogate Merkaba can be created exists, she reasoned, people will be inclined to think up ways to use them. My response to her was that our world has an abundance of technology we could use that without proper training could cause serious consequences. However, with training and care, tools enhance our lives and our work. The surrogate Merkaba should be approached in much the same way. I have confidence you will ask your higher self to approve your surrogates. You can be trusted. Rules for creating a surrogate Merkaba. Always ask your higher self, is this program appropriate for all involved? A surrogate is a program in your Merkaba that instructs your Merkaba to copy your Merkaba over a specific location. It is activated in the same way your own Merkaba is activated. A surrogate always has a purpose. Make sure you are clear about your purpose when you ask for your higher self's approval. Your surrogates will be located around a particular geographic place, for example a prayer circle in the woods, or over a house or place of business. It's important to note the surrogate is located over the place, not the people in the place. It is powered by your Merkaba. When your Merkaba goes inactive, your surrogate will also deactivate. Never create a surrogate program over another individual. When in doubt, ask your higher self and the higher self of the individual involved. You will need 2 permissions. First you need permission from your higher self. Then you need to ask your higher self to get permission from the higher self of the other person, peer to peer. It will be a very rare circumstance for you to get both permissions. Never leave an emergency surrogate Merkaba unattended around another person. Provided you have permissions, you must stay physically close. If, for example, The ambulance team will not let you ride together, take the surrogate down. You might put a program over your office or cubicle but not the entire business, unless you were the owner of the business. Remember that your surrogate program should only address the physical area, objects, or space, not the individual people. 9. Merkaba Permanence and Paranormal Validation. What you will learn in this chapter. Paranormal validation of the Merkaba. Remembering and repair. How to make the Merkaba permanent. What happens next? Paranormal external validation of the Merkaba. Greg Braden isn't the only one who has time traveled in Egypt. Maureen Saint Germain has done it too. Mohammed Nazmy, president of Quest Travel, Egypt. You may have heard about people who are able to get street lamps to go out when they walk past them. You wonder, what the heck is going on? In many cases, blinking lights or power surges are the universe's way of reconfirming what you are talking or thinking about in that exact moment. Goosebumps on the body are another way of reconfirming information. I now call them body confirmation. A TV that is turned off and plugged in still has energy moving through it. If you were to cut the electrical cord, sparks would fly. Yet you are not getting any reception. If you were to put an energy meter on it, the energy fields would show some usage. When the TV is turned on, power is moving through it. Many of you have had experiences with wristwatches and understand that your energy is so powerful that you break or lose them. Likewise, although I love technology and gadgets, I've quit purchasing cordless headsets because they keep disappearing. I've lost dozens of them and finally accepted I am not supposed to wear them. Brian and Joanna were in deep discussion regarding concerns over the possibility of dangerous earth changes in their location. Brian felt they should consider moving. Joanna completely surrendered to his suggestion, even though they had just spent thousands of dollars renovating their home. Shortly after this discussion, Brian began feeling assurance that they did not need to be protected from this presumed danger of the earth changes. He told Joanna and bingo. Immediately the lights in the house blinked off and back on in quick succession. While I was teaching a class in the home of an Atlanta chiropractor, I noticed there were a number of ceiling spotlights in her living room where we were meditating. Out of 7 lights, 4 were burned out and only 3 were on. The vaulted ceiling is so high that my host usually has a handyman come in to change them for her. She mentally wished they would come on. Immediately 3 more of the 7 came on, and stayed on, during the entire meditation. When she got up from the room, those same 3 lights that had come on during our meditation went off and stayed off for the remainder of the advanced workshop. We all laughed at how she managed to get burned out light bulbs to come on at the right moment. I often have participants stay at my home when I teach the workshop at my home. During one such workshop I realized I didn't have time to get a new bulb for the night light in the bathroom so that my elderly guest could find her way. I asked the angels to step in and allow the bulb to work, even though I knew it was a burned out bulb. The light stayed on the entire 3 days of the workshop and quit working when my house guest left. I think the Merkaba field impacts lights, perhaps overloads their circuits. As soon as the person moves out of range, the lights come back on. Start watching how far away you are when they go out and you can estimate the range of your Merkaba field. Remember and repair. The reason we say that the Merkaba is remembered is because we are remembering our future. The Merkaba shape is always around the body. When you do the meditation you are remembering it, then activating it. At some point the remembering becomes automatic. A metaphor might be that when you have a pet, you always know you have to go home to feed it. Similarly, being connected to your Merkaba field feels like you always are connected to it. When it becomes permanent you always remember it is there and it is always running in the background. Although the energetic template of the Merkaba is always around the body, it can be warped, damaged, and even forgotten. If the Merkaba is damaged, consciously activating it daily will allow it to self-repair. This is why we pointed out in the beginning of this book that the Merkaba will repair all kinds of damage. I recommend a daily practice for a number of reasons. It will self-heal if activated regularly. Activating it daily will certainly make your life easier. Sometimes the self-healing factor will lead you to a practitioner or healer who will jumpstart your processes. Seeing a practitioner could go either way, fabulous or disastrous. Always ask your higher self if this teacher or practitioner is the best choice for you at this time. Then if you get some major repair work done by a master, you can thank your Merkaba for finding that master and helping you to know what you needed. Not all methods are always good for everyone. Even for a given practice, you might be told no at one time and yes at another time by your higher self. Is my Merkaba permanent? For the answer to this question, ask your higher self. Only your higher self will know if your Merkaba is permanent. There are other ways to know, but all of them are inferior compared to asking your higher self. When you activate your Merkaba initially, it stays activated for only about 48 hours. In the early years everyone took that statement as fact. We now know it can stay up longer than that. I had a student who could see into the ethers. She did not have a big ego about it and used it to keep herself out of harm's way. Because she could see her Merkaba after she activated it, she checked on it every day. It stayed up for a month. I checked her story and my guides validated it. Why did hers stay up longer than so many other people's? I believe her survival skills were so evolved that she had the ability to replicate from her psychic abilities, rather than using the heart connection of the Merkaba along with the body and mind. I call someone with this skill set a survival psychic, see chapter 10. What happens next? This is the fun part. This is such an amazing journey that I cannot begin to tell you the fun you will have with it. For example, I was with 3 people who had been doing the Merkaba for over a year and had all just repeated the full course with me on an adventure in Banff, Canada. We kept checking in, asking the higher self if we should go to Moraine Lake, yes, Lake Louise, no. After we visited Moraine Lake, we were told to also go to Lake Louise. Obviously, we could have asked which one to visit first. We were all getting rather hungry when we approached the amazing lodge at Lake Louise. Upon entering, we found a great-looking restaurant that didn't look too busy. Since we were hungry and the menu looked fine, we headed in. Then I said, wait, did anyone ask higher self? The 2 men in our group were very hungry and immediately checked in, asking if this was where we were supposed to eat, and both got a no answer. Still hungry, we wandered upstairs to find a marvelous restaurant with 3-story windows and a breathtaking view of the lake and glacier. Our higher selves approved and the hostess informed us there was only a 10-minute wait. Then she gave us the best seats in the restaurant because that is what opened up for us. On another adventure, my host in Japan wanted to take me to a hot springs after a long trek to a shrine. It was late and we both opted to skip dinner in favor of the bathing. We went into one hot spring spa near the railway station that seemed nice, yet my higher self said no. We wandered into the main town where we could see 6 or so hotels with hot springs. My host, Naoko, now used to my asking my higher self about everything, pointed to each of them while waiting for my higher self to give approval of one. We went into the selected spa and the desk clerk told us nobody could be admitted after 3 p.m. Naoko told the host that I was here from America and really wanted to experience this particular hot spring. Immediately the desk clerk let us in, with free towels and a lesser price than the first spa we had considered. It turned out better than we expected because the hotel included dinner with the guest rooms, so all the guests were at dinner while we had the entire spa to ourselves with 2 pools. One was outside where we could see the full moon. Higher self solutions and surprises. When I was doing a workshop in Nashua, New Hampshire, staying at a hotel, I was working out at the hotel gym every morning. I was disappointed that the water cooler in the gym did not have the expected 5-gallon jug above it. Instead, the top of the water cooler was covered with unimportant things, such as flyers, a box of tissues, and other clutter. On the 3rd day I walked in when a student was getting water from the cooler. Imagine my surprise to discover it was piped in through a set of filters from the wall. My expectation of that kind of cooler did not match what I saw. My bias that the water had to come from a jug above the cooler made me think there was no water in the exercise room, yet there was. The higher self is like this. It shows you solutions, ideas, and concepts that you haven't thought of because it has no bias or expectation to limit you. Awesome, isn't it? How do I make the Merkaba permanent? With daily practice, the Merkaba will become permanent on its own. I recommend you do it daily because each day you get a fresh start from the universe. Each day you get to decide what you will make of your life. By choosing to do the Merkaba daily, you give yourself the gift of a practice that leads to perfection, an open heart and stepping out of polarity. Not a bad investment for 5 minutes per day. Not to mention the fact that if you do it daily and then forget one day, your Merkaba will still be actively running. After my Merkaba was permanent, my higher self informed me that I was supposed to keep doing it. Why would that be? Perhaps it is because I have such a big commitment to teach the Merkaba. I do know that when I asked my higher self if my Merkaba was permanent, I was told, that is not the question for you, Maureen. My higher self was aware that I would probably stop my daily practice if it were permanent. I then asked if I should keep doing it. Yes. Is it permanent? Yes. I continued to do the Merkaba daily for more than 8 years after that point. I still do the Merkaba frequently. Beyond higher self-communication, feeling body. Your feeling body is a higher dimensional expression of your physical body. My first experience with my feeling body was when I was teaching an FOL class. I had a certain knowing that existed in my physical body, not my mental body or brain. I was being told very specific actions to take from another level, yet the mental instructions were also very clear to not think about it. I described this in detail in Chapter 7. We've all had experiences where we have known something at the body level. I've discovered that if you are having this kind of experience on a regular basis, you have found a way to experience new information through your heart, while completely bypassing conscious thought patterns. It is a direct link to 5th dimension and beyond to even higher dimensions. In the 5th dimension it is a dance. The mind participates but heart energy rules. It is the place of unconditional love, heart knowing. The heart does not require a mental process to confirm a piece of knowledge. The knowledge that comes in is so perfect that it is not necessary to validate it any other way. The mother who knows that her child is in trouble is one such example. Many people have known when a friend, partner, or spouse needed something. When caring for an aging or ill family member, sensing that the individual's death is imminent is another example. Recently, I was getting ready to travel to a certain city for a workshop. When I went to bed the night before, I fully expected to fall asleep right away, but I did not. Instead, I lay awake feeling this great tension of excitement. I felt like a rookie football player who has signed his first multi-million-dollar contract. I was happy as could be and felt higher than a kite. Since I do not take drugs or drink anything but water and tea, it wasn't because of some mind-altering substance. My heart knew my life was about to change, and it did. A number of magical and synchronistic events occurred during that trip. My anticipation and excitement were justified and my body confirmed it before I knew the details. The heart knows. A permanent Merkaba. When your Merkaba is permanent, you always remember. Your higher self guides and directs you. You feel great love for everyone you meet. Life becomes compelling and heartwarming. Even difficult situations become manageable and joyful. Once your Merkaba is permanent, you will always have an open and active connection to your heart. 10. Clearing fear with dolphins, whales, and arrow mandalas. What you will learn in this chapter. What is going on with cetacean energy? Fear and its use. Dolphins and weather windows. Multidimensional dolphin adventures. A woman in a Caribbean-based dolphin swim workshop had a lame arm from a factory injury. Elizabeth Fortune, a Flower of Life facilitator, and Drunvalo were leading this dolphin swim. When the wild dolphins were sighted near the boat, everyone jumped into the water, including the woman with the injured arm. Everyone was laughing and swimming with the dolphins. Their energy was euphoric. When the dolphins left, everyone piled onto the boat and went back to their cabins for a nap. At dinner, Drunvalo noticed the woman with the lame arm was using both of her arms freely. He pointed this out to her and she seemed surprised. What are you talking about? She didn't even remember that she'd had a lame arm when she got in the water. She literally jumped from one version of reality to another where that injury had never occurred. And she brought everyone else with her. You, too, can use this understanding to create alternate versions of reality that please you. After learning the Merkaba in 1994, I immediately went to a rebirthing event where I undulated, the way a dolphin swims. The entire 2 hours I was under the rebirthing trance. I now believe in one experience I was remembering a dolphin lifetime. I truly did not know I was doing that, and I could not seem to not do that. Maybe my dolphin friends joined me for healing and transforming. Fortuitously, later that year I was on 2 different dolphin swims getting my feet wet, so to speak. That first dolphin swim was in 1994 with Drunvalo. I have been swimming with dolphins ever since. In 2000 I was given the go-ahead to offer the Merkaba training and the Advanced Flower of Life workshop along with a dolphin immersion experience. During each dolphin sacred journey we have multiple swims with wild dolphins, and each year it is a unique and amazing adventure of love and light. Dolphins clear fear. One year a woman named Sharon who was deathly afraid of the water joined us. I told her I was certified by the Red Cross with level 2 of lifeguard and water safety and had pulled a few people from the water, so she would be safe with me. Once when I was in my 20s, I saved a nun from drowning. Her convent was using our family swimming pool for a private swim. I was gazing out the window at our yard when my attention was drawn to the pool. I noticed there was a problem and was able to respond quickly. My mother always said I had earned my spot in heaven for pulling out that drowning nun. Sharon was determined to get into the water. I noticed she was hanging on to her husband for dear life, even though she had a boogie board and was wearing a life jacket. I insisted that the next time she got in the water I would be her partner. I wanted to make sure her husband would not have to be her full-time caretaker. I took her wrist so I could keep her in my grasp. What happened next took me completely by surprise, as I was unexpectedly filled with fear. This was no ordinary fear. I am a fearless woman in or out of the water, and in that moment I experienced real terror. In a flash I knew what it was like to be afraid of drowning. I quickly pulled the rest of this eerie energy from my swimming partner, Sharon, and grounded it through me, and then into the water directly into the center of Mother Earth. Otherwise I was sure I would have drowned. Sharon was quite startled and said, "It's gone. I'm not afraid of the water anymore. You cleared it." I think I had a little help from the dolphins. They help us breathe deeply by releasing all fear that is in our fields. These energies can be like spider webs that can be pulled from the body. You'd be well advised to know how to ground and clear fear before attempting to pull this kind of energy from someone else. Using fear to fuel your ascension work. Your fears are keys to your own growth and understanding. They help you develop compassion for others by working with your own fears. Denying their existence no longer serves you. Please consider asking the archangels to clear you of desires and patterns that no longer serve you, and to assist you in replacing them with desires, dreams, and patterns that will serve you. You can ask specific angels to assist you. You'll find lots of information once you start to look to the angels to assist you this way. Over the years I have worked with supplemental tools to assist humans in processing these incoherent energies and emotions. You do not have to do it the long way anymore. The universe has provided tools to help you shift quickly, such as my Arrow Mandalas Orion series essential oil blends discussed in detail later. Most of us tend to find our seat of security in the same place as fear, in the gut or solar plexus. While that is where you experience some emotions, if you allow yourself to open your heart you will find there are 3 key emotions: love, gratitude, and joy, that move through your heart. Science now knows the huge toroidal field that circulates around your heart is bigger than your whole body. This is where love resides. At an Earth, Sky, Heart workshop of Drunvalos that I attended, Lawrence, a mixed-race black Indian, found that he was able to release the guardedness that he always felt around white people because now he was moving love through his heart. Fear and worry. What is the purpose of fear in the world? It was put there to slow our ascension. Fear is a perversion of the past. Worry is a perversion of the future. Neither is real. Who or what caused this? Initially, Earth was the paradise of extraterrestrials. They did not want humanity to evolve too quickly because then Earth would no longer be their playground. These beings reprogrammed our DNA and created a way to limit certain human capacity. While they were at it, they modified certain things, such as stepping up our sex drive. They also instilled fear in the consciousness. How did they do that? They realized initiates in the mystery school were evolving quickly, and they began to teach these individuals how to use energy and amplify it. The mystery school students trusted their teachers. They thought they were being given real options for their benefit. In truth, the only real options anyone can have are the ones you give yourself. A rigged test. In an ancient Egyptian mystery school run by lesser beings with outside agendas, initiates were sent down a long corridor with 2 doors at the end. One was dimly lit, the other was very bright. Of course, most initiates chose the one with the bright light. Waiting behind that door were crocodiles, and they were eaten alive. But guess what? The darkened doorway had the same exact outcome. Both circumstances yielded a large amount of fear in the consciousness before the initiates died. Not all choices were like this, just enough to slow things down. This is how fear became amplified in the consciousness of humanity. Now, if you were fully connected to your higher self and had a Merkaba up and running, you probably wouldn't be too inclined to take a rigged test. However, as an adept, with some spiritual mastery in a fearsome circumstance, you might find you had the ability to leave your body before any fear and physical pain were created, instead of taking the chance of having fear magnified by you, thus polluting the environment with your fear. Once you face a fear head-on, it loses its impact on you. What is it you fear? It usually is the unknown. If you have knowledge, even if it is incomplete information, it can lead you to an awareness of certain actions that remove you from the fray of activity. Full knowledge dissipates fear and provides you with an opportunity. Fear is a perversion of the past. Worry is a perversion of the future. Neither is real. Survival psychics. Some individuals are so filled with barriers against past hurts and experiences that left deep wounds that they are unable to let down their defenses. They have developed very powerful skills to protect themselves. These skills may include various forms of extrasensory or beyond the senses, perception, telepathy, no-contact communication, clairsentience, perceiving things not normally perceptible, clairaudience, hearing things not present to the ear but having objective reality, clairalience, smelling, clairgustance, tasting, and clairvoyance, knowing, that access energy fields beyond the physical body. These survival skills can be developed enough to impersonate a real healer with an open heart. Having these abilities does not presume the individual is God-centered. You can usually sort this out as you observe their well-developed psychic skills, because they are not sending this awareness through the heart. Instead, they are looping it, like fly fishing, from the solar plexus to the higher chakras. It affords them a form of protection since it lets them read fields and anticipate perceived danger. The disadvantage is that if you are used to getting information in this way, you might not bother with learning to open your heart. Opening your heart is key to your ascension work. Some abused individuals have taken the time to do their healing work. It is not easy going backward to gain a heart connection and then moving through it toward achieving mastery. Please consider taking advantage of the healing tools mentioned earlier. Survival psychics are seriously wounded and seriously compromised. They have not engaged in spiritual work to open their hearts but seem to be able to sense things they have no real basis for knowing. They may even believe these abilities are gifts, but in reality, they are expressions of advanced survival skills they have developed to keep themselves safe. Some of these individuals are spiritually inclined, yet they lack the heart connection that would allow them to see and feel another's experience. They unknowingly expend huge amounts of energy building barriers to the opportunity of really knowing and understanding their own fears. This is because if their fears were addressed and cleared, they would have to open their hearts the way everyone else on the planet does, which would be untenable by their current standards. I wrote about this struggle in Reweaving the Fabric of Your Reality. Please understand that I have great compassion for what they have been through and how very difficult life must be for them. When these individuals use their specially developed skills to get information, they can be highly accurate. Remember that if you are one of those individuals, until you are able to express true love for yourself and others, it will be challenging for you to move into your fifth dimensional self. The emotion you create will always be operating at the ego level. The fifth dimensional self realigns with the higher self. Your higher self will create an environment where safety is never an issue. If you are wealthy, money is no object. If you are fifth dimensional, fear does not exist. Fear will block you from tapping into the profound abundance of the universe that operates through the heart. You will always be operating from a sense of lack or limitation. This is based on experiences that were imprinted at the ego level. 19. Fear and its misuses. Fear can be something we develop on our own, or in certain cases it may be used by someone or some force that wishes to exercise control over us. This quote from a newsletter of Patricia Cota Robles, co-founder of the organization New Age Study of Humanity's Purpose, in 2006 gives a new slant on an old theme. They informed us that if the truth of what is occurring on Earth is not available to the newly awakened souls, they will become pawns to the misinformation and disinformation being buffeted about by the forces of imbalance. These wayward souls are perpetuating fear-based thoughts of gloom and doom in a final attempt to maintain control and to terrorize humanity. Their goal is to keep humanity so overwhelmed and so focused on our fears that we won't be able to awaken effectively enough to fulfill our divine plans and our purpose and reason for being on Earth at this time. Their desire is to prevent the Earth and all our life from ascending onto our next spiral of evolution. This is the spiral of the fifth dimension, the spiral on which humanity will co-create the limitless physical perfection of heaven on Earth. Information dispels fear. This is why your higher self connection is so vital. When you have accurate information to follow due to your direct connection with God, you have nothing to fear. You will find that you are able to know what you need to know so perfectly that everything that you need to do, be, or know is effortless. Fear of shame. There are those who believe in integrity but freeze up when it comes to some personal issue connected to shame. It is important that you clear your shame so you can evolve and grow your own self-awareness to a place that allows true higher self to move through you. One of the easiest ways to do this is to use an essential oil blend. Effective almost instantaneously, Aero Mandala's Orion Series Remembrance blend is able to clear shame because it bypasses everything and goes directly to the limbic system, where all core emotions reside in the physical. This enables the shame to be zeroed out like lightning conducted to the ground with a lightning rod. If you include the intention disc from Vibrance, the fascia will rebound, resolving the tendency to re-injure with the same emotion. Shame is a limiting belief that is rooted in the desire for victimhood. If you can convince yourself you are a victim of circumstances, you do not need to be responsible for your behavior or for what has happened to you. Shame is also a form of fear that drives individuals to behave in ways that are inconsistent with their stated beliefs. It is this inconsistency that causes the disconnect, making it difficult to connect with your innate wisdom. This is why clearing shame is so vital. A woman I interacted with failed to keep her word, or even communicate about it, because even though she seemed to have high integrity, she was embarrassed to admit she could not keep her word. Withholding this information is disrespectful. It's easy enough to admit I forgot, I got tied up, or what truthfully occurred to prevent keeping her word. In truth, she was ashamed of the information because it would mean she would have to stop being a victim and be accountable for her own actions. This person also did not notice that she had not expressed gratitude in this same circumstance because her primary goal was to keep herself in high regard. This was her normal. Her inability to feel or understand another's feelings prevented her from dropping her facade and loving herself. Emotional wounds. There are many ways to clear emotional wounds. It is important to recognize that the emotional wounds must be addressed, even if they have spontaneously healed or cleared. The ego clings to past wounds and hurts in an effort to protect the soul. When you become your fifth dimensional self, there is nothing to